All right, guys, this is another episode 2, actually, of the Broken Fellowship podcast. I am honored and blessed to be here with my brother Ricky Ticklefoot Smith, and if he so inclines to share, he can share the story of the name there and how that became so. But yeah, this is my brother Ricky Ticklefoot Smith, and I'm honored to call him my brother. Honored to have him here with us to discuss and share his testimony. And I know that it's going to speak volumes, and I know that God has already been using it and changing lives with it, and He's going to do even more so with this. So, without further ado, my brother Ricky. So, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Doing good?
Blessed.
Blessed.
Yes,
Amen. Amen. So, brother, I'm just going to open the floor to you, man. This is your story. This is your time. I just want you to feel free to share your testimony. Maybe just kind of like some of the speaker meetings, one in which I know I was able to witness what that was like for you. But just share your story, man. Like how life began, where things turned towards the direction it did for you and your addiction, and yeah, man, just share your story.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Morganton, North Carolina in 1992. My mom and my dad both suffered from alcohol and addiction separately. Right? They suffered from the disease pretty bad. My mom already had my sister before she had me, but that being said, she was in a bad relationship. She was having trouble enough taking care of her daughter, and now she's about to have me, and she couldn't take care of me. So evidently she called my grandmother, and my grandmother was more than happy, her and my grandpa, to come up from Florida and grab me from the hospital and take me back down there with them. I wasn't aware of this until I was like 4 or 5, really, because I wasn't, I don't know, cognitively able to really differentiate the two, probably. But I had 2 brothers that I was raised with. They were really my uncles, but they were my brothers. And I don't know if you've ever watched any wrestling. Okay, well,
Oh yeah.
they loved wrestling, and they were a lot bigger than me. And I was like a perfect little dummy to toss around, you know. um, it was fun growing up. Never knew when I was going to get power bombed or choke slammed by them. Um, but my grandpa was alcoholic. He drank a lot, very verbally and physically abusive. Right. My grandmother, angel, you know, from far as I could see from my perspective. And she put up with that for like 23 years with him. Right. Great woman. He didn't really believe in God and stuff like that because he was a Vietnam vet. So he had a lot of problems believing in God. With that being said, childhood was, I'm not going to say it was great, but it wasn't bad as far as me really, I didn't really need for anything. They took care of my material needs. My grandmother made me feel as loved as she could. My grandpa did when he was sober, right? So it was like a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? When he was sober, really great guy, awesome guy, right? Really loving, caring. As soon as he started drinking, all bets were off. And I seen this at a young age, and I, telling myself, I'm not going to be like that growing up. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be like that. Anyway, I get a little bit older. My grandma makes me take piano lessons for like 8.5 years. I wasn't happy about it. It was like once a week, every Wednesday, and it was only like $5 a lesson, right? And we had piano recitals, this, that, and the other. I had a dirt bike that I loved to ride, and if I wanted to ride my dirt bike or do anything outside, I had to practice piano every day. And grateful for it now. As a little boy, not so much. All my friends were out playing football and doing other things, and I'm having to practice piano every night. There was a lot of turmoil going on in the home as far as with him, with my grandpa and my grandma, and I didn't really see how a healthy relationship really looked like between a man and a woman. My brothers, they were a lot older than me. My youngest older brother is 11 years older than me. I seen them both go off, get married, be successful. They could drink a couple of beers, be okay. I'm like 16 at the time. I'm in marching band because I was musically talented because my grandma made me take piano lessons. So I was in percussion on the drum line. And I met this girl, and she was in color guard. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in love. I'm going to marry her. You know what I mean? At the time, I felt like that, though. You know, I'm young, don't really know any better. So I give everything I have, I feel like, to this relationship. But remember, I don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. I've never really seen that. I've never seen a relationship with people putting God first in the relationship, right? Healthy compromises, all this stuff. All I've seen was just a lot of dysfunction. And, well, I had been going to church for most of my life. My grandma made me go to church. Which I was grateful for too. It was kind of like a little escape from the chaos at home.
But your grandfather didn't believe in God. Now, but I wonder how that happened as far as your grandma being a believer and going to church, but not him. Was there friction between them on that?
I don't really remember.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was,
Yeah.
but I didn't really remember. He was going to stay home and drink and work on cars, you know, but... So she had me in church. Like, I was in children's Bible drills, did really good. Like, went to state doing children's Bible drills, and then went to youth Bible drills. I was in youth choir. We went to a couple mission trips. It's called World Changers was the name of the mission trip organization. We went to Anchorage and Fairbanks, Alaska, and we went to Evansville, Indiana. And those times were awesome, right? But I was still not really, I'm not going to say I could really feel the Spirit. Right at that time, I was seeking God, but really I was just there because of the fellowship of friends and it was like an escape from home. It wasn't really to build a personal relationship with Christ or with God. Like I didn't know that that's what I needed. So let's fast forward back to the relationship with this girl. She gets pregnant. Obviously, I'm not acting right, living by, any of the commandments. I'm a teenager. Acting out of impulse and what I feel like I want to do. Right. And she's pregnant, and I end up having to go tell, the church finds out, right? And the youth pastors kind of just like turned their back on me. They didn't do what I expected them to do, which was like bring me in and show me how to, I don't know, do life. You know what I mean? Because I had never really been shown that, and they kind of knew a little bit of my background, but it's not really their place. But what I seen was people that claimed to be godly and religious just turned their back on me. Because I was already a little bit delusional in the way I was thinking, right? I was selfish and self-centered. Wasn't really sure how the world worked. I just knew I had to man up, get a job, and do what was right. I need to take care of that kid, possibly marry her. My grandpa had been sent off. He had went off to North Dakota to the VA hospital to try to stop drinking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was gone for a couple years. He came back right around this time. Had to go tell him. That was great.
Did you tell him while he was sober or while he was...
He was drinking. Yeah, my brother had actually came and picked me up and said, we're going to go tell Dad right now. I'm like, oh, no,
Not a good time.
I don't want to go. But anyway, did it. It's okay. But the church, those guys turned me back. So I really just stopped going to church altogether at that time. I'm like, well, this is what church is about. I don't really want nothing to do with it. Became really prejudiced, built some walls up in between me and any kind of relationship with God. And I started getting in a lot of trouble around this time. Well, after I found out that kid's not mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My grandpa he came back and he paid for this DNA test. And it wasn't my kid. And that crushed me, right? Because I was in love, man. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I felt like, as far as providing, getting a job, being there. And it crushed me. I didn't know what to do, right? So start drinking here and there, right? I started hanging out with my biological dad more at the time. And he's an alcoholic, right? A lot of moonshine, a lot of weed, pills, stuff like that. Started doing that. I'd also, later on, started shooting meth. So it's like within a short period of time with parents, I'm doing drugs, like not just a little bit, but hard drugs. And I'm still going to high school. And that blows my mind that I was able to graduate high school. Like by the grace of God, I was able to graduate. I I didn't like feeling whatever feelings were going on in me. I had a lot of anger, rage, hate, hurt, and a lot of fear that I wasn't ever going to be enough for a relationship, right? A lot of insecurities coming up and stuff like that. Because it wasn't my kid. She lied to me. What didn't I do right? Right? A lot of self-pity, a lot of self involved altogether. So I start using, drinking on a pretty regular basis. I kind of came out of the using meth era for just like a short period of time. Was drinking really hard with my high school buddies that I went to church with. They were in youth group with me. We'd party, like we went to senior week. I realized I probably had a problem when everybody was passed out and I'm the only one up drinking. You know, that should have been my sign right there. But I'm just like, they're weak. I can drink more. You know, I can party because that's all it was at the beginning. It was like a social thing, but I always took it a little bit farther than everybody else that was in my group of people. Like I was looking for weed and other things at the beach while they were just content with playing a little bit of beer pong and passing out.
Right.
By the time I'm young, I'm like, I just like to party. That's all it is. I didn't know anything about the disease, about anything. I start getting in trouble for doing dumb stuff with friends. And out of nowhere, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to go enlist in the Marine Corps. That's gonna give me some discipline. It's going to give me a reset in life. Because I haven't done anything with my life up to this point except just party. I graduated high school. Don't really have anything on my record. I'm going to go enlist in the Marine Corps. So I did. December 31st, 2012, it was my little brother's birthday. My dad's son is like my half brother. All right, well, he always throws a party for him, or used to throw a party for him on New Year's Eve. Whenever there, we got drunk, man. I mean, bad. And evidently, somewhere along the lines throughout the night, I smoked a joint. Didn't remember doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So my dad picked me up out of the floor. I was beside a wood stove with deer meat hanging out of my mouth. I remember he like, hey, son, get up. I'm like, oh. All right, I get up, go to bed, and I leave to go to Paris Island January 3rd, 2013. So 3 days later. Didn't know that I had smoked pot, right? So when I get there, right, there's that moment of truth. You're sitting in there, we're sitting at a bunch of desks, raise your hand, everything's good. Good to go. Yep, I sir, everything's good. Well, I failed my initial drug test. Right, but they didn't tell me that until 69 out of the 72 complete training days that you have during that 9 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever it is. Right.
So they let you go through the entire training process.
Except for the crucible.
Yeah. They didn't know until that time?
Evidently.
They didn't get to your test, maybe?
I don't know.
Wow.
But
I remember hearing your story about this, but I didn't know that they let you get all the way through.
Yep. My senior drill instructor came in. We were about to go out to practice drill, right? Yeah. And he was like, Smith. I'm like, I sorry, said, you ain't got to talk to me like that. Get in the office. I'm like, okay, because any other time, if you don't, you're getting throat chopped,
right,
hazed, whatever.
Yeah,
you go out to the sand pit. You're getting
the gig's up at that point. The training's over.
Yep. He was like, don't even. You ain't got to talk to me like that anymore.
Wow.
I felt my heart drop because I knew something was up.
Yeah.
And then that's what it was. And then even better, I had to go into this RSP platoon. Right. It's the people that either get injured or they're just going home because of that reason or other reasons. Right. They're getting discharged
like
for 2 weeks,
discharge.
man. Yeah, for 2 weeks I had to sit there and I had to mow the property, pick weeds out of little pieces of, there's like gravel beds that pick little tiny weeds out of it. It's just embarrassing, right? A lot of guilt, a lot of almost shaming, you know what I mean? So when I got back home from being discharged from the Marine Corps, I was really, really upset with the Marine Corps. Definitely thought it was their fault. Really no fault of my own. Justified with the fact that other vets that I've seen smoke marijuana, right? My grandpa was one of them, and I was like, whatever. I signed a death waiver for you guys. You're gonna kick me out because I failed a drug test for pot, and they can't. They don't know that I wasn't lying, like, because I really did not think that I had smoked pot.
Yeah.
But so
likely story on the apartment.
Right. Probably have it happen all the time.
Yeah.
I
was going to share something with that too, man, because I know that sometimes those things are a little bit wishy-washy. Because I know when I was going through MEPS with the Army, I popped hot and I hadn't done any in years and years. I hadn't but I don't know how I got exposed to it, but I popped hot for THC, and but they just let me retest, I guess.
I passed the one at MEPS.
Yeah. Yeah. That was awkward, you know, because I'm like, man, I'm trying to live for Jesus, you know, and I'm like, man, I haven't been around that in years, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't too good to, you know, whatever, but like, man, I was like, it was an awkward situation, you know, for sure.
At least they allowed you the privilege, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was too late by the time I had already got to Paris Island and done all that. So I get home, had this girlfriend that I had before I went in, right? And she was kind of like talking to another guy at the time. And I don't know how to channel emotions or feelings. I don't know any of that. The only thing I know is the solution that I've always been using, which was get drunk or high. So I don't have to feel those feelings or those emotions. I don't have to ride those out. So that's what I did. And then I started engaging in a lot of criminal activity, a lot of breaking and entering into cars, houses, anything. Really, just y'all created a good criminal, you know? That was my mindset. That's how delusional and like full flight from reality I was.
Was that like some sort of a revenge on the world?
Kinda, I guess, looking back on it, absolutely. Because I had jobs. I say jobs because I would be very successful at them for a couple months until my life was unmanageable due to the fact that I was drinking and using and couldn't keep showing up. I'd be late too many times or whatever. And they would even excuse that to a certain extent because of how such a hard worker I was.
Oh.
You know? And they showed me a lot of grace with a lot of my jobs. I learned how to do a bunch of different stuff through doing this. And then I found roofing. You can drink, get high, and roof, right? My boss man, you know, the guy I was working with, smoked pot, you know, so it was like, who cares? We go to his house and drink afterwards, as long as we weren't like drunk on the job, right? I was getting high on the job, so he didn't really care, you know. If you fall, you're fired before you hit the ground.
Before the insurance can kick in.
Yeah, because we didn't have any. You had like an umbrella policy or whatever it's called. And, you know, you're fired before you hit the ground. And I was okay with that because, you know, I was in good shape. I could hand them on, you know.
I get to still do what I want to do, party. And,
yeah. And slowly but surely I pushed away any kind of family members that cared about me because I couldn't keep engaging in the activities that I was doing, like drinking, using, breaking into stuff, just living wrong, right? I couldn't keep engaging in that stuff and have them around. For me, I was like, it got to the point where I felt like it was better off if I wasn't around them. Like I was way too far gone. I wasn't going to stop. I've done too much. Right? So I didn't want to drag them into it with me when all they're doing is trying to reach out to help me. And I didn't want to see that, especially my brother. I remember one night in particular, he was in my face yelling because I'd stole from my grandma or something crazy. And he was like, "You don't care about anybody but yourself." And I was like, whatever, do what I want, you know? That was my thoughts. And how crazy is that? Because he was just trying to help me, and he was spot on, but I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So I was functional as far as being a functional addict or alcoholic for short periods. And then it would become too overwhelming. Then I'd have to like dry out for a week or two. And then I'd get another job, or I'd go to the psych ward or stuff like that because I'd enter into some kind of meth psychosis.
Oh.
Yeah, that's happened to me a few times. I'm lucky to have the right state of mind that I do now. Really blessed. That's God. Because I see a lot of clients that come in where I work, and they don't. Right, so I'm really grateful for what mind I do have left.
What was that like, Ricky? I mean, just having to go, like going to the psych wards and stuff. I mean, like, was it only as long as you were on the meth, or was it a prolonged thing like that psychosis? Did it last a long time?
Depending if I stopped using or not. As long as I was awake, it'd take about 3 days to really start kicking in the paranoia, the fear, the rage, whatever it was. It was an extreme emotion, either way, whatever it was. But most of it was rooted in fear. It's just an overwhelming
like
sense of
people were out to
impending
get you
doom.
or something.
Yeah, And not necessarily just a certain type of people, because I wasn't selling drugs. I was just using them. But I thought they were after me. You know, and it's like, what? I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff visually. That
I've talked to other, like Brother Doug and other people, and he always referred to it as the shadow people, the shadow men.
Yeah, that's the thing. I also seen like detailed stuff, like a whole different level, like demons, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting things like on LSD, you know, other forms of crazy stuff that I won't even mention, man, but like some of the crazy things you see, it's only by the grace of God I still have any sort of sanity, you know, and that was only a few short 2 or 3 years that I was partying and all, but I don't think I'd ever really experienced the shadow men. I think as Brother Doug called them, shadow men. But I think it sounds like a common thing in that
With
when
meth.
you're dealing with meth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation. Your body's deprived of any kind of resources it needs, right? Vitamins, nutrition, water, anything. Because that's what comes last. Drugs come first, you know.
Psych ward, did that help?
For 7 days to 12 days, however long they involuntarily kept me,
Yeah.
you know.
Is that just to get you kind of like where you're not going crazy again?
where I'm not suicidal or homicidal?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they would put me on some kind of medication. Then I would get out and keep trying to take the medication and use drugs at the same time. And that's just, wow, don't do that, you know, because it's being on psych meds and doing meth.
Well, guys, if you noticed, my brother Ricky here has a cup of coffee. We were having some major technical difficulties. We were trying to blow the camera up. So the camera was getting overheated and shutting off. So just those little nuances behind the scene things that we're getting used to. So, but without further ado, we were talking about family dynamics. Lovely. Fun topic. Fun topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
So by the time you came around, we were talking about your older siblings. You've got a half sister and you've got 3 older brothers.
yeah, they're my uncles, but they were raised as my brothers because they're my grandma kids, you know.
So that's the difference.
And they don't all have the same dads.
Okay. So with your biological mom and dad, it was you and a half sister, and that was from your biological parents. Is that how that worked?
My half sister's from my mom's side.
Okay.
My half brother is from my dad's side.
Okay, but you're the only offspring from your biological mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that explains a lot. So then when you talk about your older
Tell me about
brothers, yeah, I mean it's cool. Yeah, but yeah, when you're talking about your older brothers, they're actually your uncles.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
I was raised though as, you know, my grandparents were my parents. You know,
Right.
That's mom and dad. You know,
Yeah, gotcha.
so they were my brothers.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that explains the other question I was going to ask as far as like how was it that you got back in your father's life when you were in Florida with your grandparents and he's up here in Morganton?
We moved back up here when I was 4 years old. To start school. I started kindergarten early. I was 4 years old. My birthday was like right around the cutoff date.
Okay.
So I didn't even get to see him until I was like probably 9, where I remember it. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time with him here and there, you know.
Yeah.
Disappointments, but looking back on it now, after having an understanding of addiction and alcoholism, I'm able to show him grace and forgiveness and stuff like that for the things that I felt as a kid. Because, you know, I felt like my parents didn't want me. I wasn't enough and stuff like that. As much as they could tell me, we love you, we want you, their actions showed different due to this disease. Right? So I'm going to be at your basketball game. I wouldn't show up, except every once in a while. I'm going to come pick you up at this time. I'll be standing at my mom's screen door looking at the driveway waiting. You know, I can't even imagine how that made my grandma feel, you know, looking back on it. But, yeah, little stuff like that. Yeah.
So I know that at the last, before the technical difficulties we had, I think we were talking about the psych ward and then the psychosis and all that kind of stuff. But I think where the original track we were on was with getting into some of the harder things like the B&E and stuff like that. Like, if you want to continue on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Anybody I hung out with was into the same kind of thing. So I wasn't hanging out with family members really necessarily. My sister some, and then she moved to Louisiana. She's like, I got to get out of here. I can't keep on living like this. I got kids and stuff like that. Me, I'm like, whatever. I don't have any kids yet. Right.
Yeah.
And then there were periods where I wasn't like breaking the law and doing stuff like that because I'm on parole or probation, and I'm trying to abide to the best of my ability by these rules, but I'm still using. So I would like try to straighten up and get a job, go to my community service, go fake my drug test for my probation officer. Right? They even sold these little bags that you put on like for fake pee. It was I don't even remember what it's called, but you like strap it to your back, and it's like a bladder, and it has like a little hose that came up, and you could just like pop it open, and it would pee. It would it would gravity fed. It would just come out. So I'd be able to hide that, and I would pass my drug test for the longest time. And then after that, I finally got a probation officer, and I guess I was tired of lying. I just got out of being locked up, and I didn't want to go back down the same road, but I was still afraid to change. I didn't want to grow up. Really at the root of it, I just didn't want to grow up.
Did you really know how?
Nope.
No one ever showed you how, really.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But with that being said, I told my probation officer, because I knew I was about to start doing the same old stuff, started breaking the law, getting in more trouble, getting more charges, getting more felonies. Like, I don't need this. I need help. So I told her I needed help. I'm back on drugs, and it's going to get bad real fast. Probably one of the best things I ever done for my life for a short period. She sent me to a 90-day treatment program called Dark Cherry. It's 90-day intensive inpatient treatment. No tobacco, no anything. You learn a little bit about like some cognitive behavioral therapy, some metacognition, some thought stopping, just little tricks. You learn about your triggers and all this stuff. And I'm like, how in the heck is that going to help me? I know what triggers me.
That's really interesting. Like the thought stopping. I've heard a lot of the other terms you just said, but the thought stopping, I mean, is that just as simple as it sounds, or is it just like not letting your thoughts run away and drive you towards?
So the way it was explained to me, right? So something happens, it makes me feel this way, right? Or I have a thought, and that makes me feel this way, and I can stop it at any point in time before I have a reaction, right? Before I react to it, I don't have to have the same reaction to, like, if you yell at me or you come up and kick me in the leg. Ow, that hurt. That made me angry. Right? I can stop that thought at some point in time before I react.
So yeah, you're trying to mitigate that response.
Right. Yep.
That emotional response, that anger or whatever. And I guess like I'm curious as far as like when you try to stop that and from having that reaction, that emotional reaction, that anger reaction, I think for a lot of us it would just be, okay, I'm angry, I might act out, I might cuss, or I might do something. But in your case, once you have that anger response, what makes it different for you?
I'm going to burn down my life over little things, right? So
Okay.
I can't have just justifiable anger going on in my life, or I'm not going to be at peace.
Yeah.
At all. If you get mad, you might just yell or something like that. I might react, or you might hit somebody. That's cool, but I'm going to keep that resentment, and I'm going to hold on to it. And it's like drinking poison and expecting you to die. You know? Or just holding on to like a rose bush and just keep squeezing it tighter and tighter and just never feeling relief, just feeling that constant pain, reliving it, refilling it.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a matter of, you have that thought, you don't stop that thought, it turns into anger, resentment, emotion, and the very thing, yeah, because you're trying to escape that emotion. And just learning a lot through being around the bridge more, being around Beth more, My wife Beth, not Beth Moore, um, um, and learning more about these things and learning about just in my own struggles and across the board that it's just that it's trying to control those and hide from and escape those unwanted emotions, those unwanted feelings. That's what turns us towards that drug or that alcohol or that porn or that, gambling or whatever. It's trying to escape those things. So interesting to see that connection there with what you were talking about, that thought that can turn into that anger or that emotional response that typically drives you to abuse or use that substance.
Yeah. The key is to catch it before I react, right? And you get better at it with time. The more you're able to identify, you're more aware and practice it consciously. I'm not the best at it, right? I probably didn't even describe it to the T right, but that's a generalized idea of what it is. It's been a few years. But I learned stuff like that there. We even did a step workbook on each one of the 12 steps. And guess how much I remember about it? 0.
Yeah.
I had a reservation when I went into that program that I'm going to get on some boxing when I get out of here because I see other people really doing it and they're okay, but I've really never seen anybody do it and be okay, but I was telling myself that I was going to be different. I could do that. It's a maintenance program. You know? I can just take it and not go to any of those classes that they're wanting me to take along with the medication.
What do they call that, MAT?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually having I've been going to a counselor for my own stuff, and just he's been helping me a lot, and actually saw him this morning. So we were having a conversation about that, and I didn't know because he works at a treatment facility in Charlotte also, and he does a personal practice, and he was I didn't know exactly if he was for it or not, so I was tiptoeing around that because I didn't want to be like 100% against it and then come to find out that he believes in it. Thank God he doesn't. He's like, yeah, I hate the whole MAT thing too. And I was sharing with him, I said, I know plenty of men and women who have gone through the MAT, and they've either said that it's harder to get off of than heroin. And I know you've shared with me before that the taking the spiritual route of recovery, going that direction versus the MAT, but I have my misgivings about it, and I've never experienced it myself, what it's like, but kind of a funny story. I don't know if Beth ever shared this or I ever shared this with you or whatever, but for a long time out around the county where we live, you'd see these yellow Suboxone signs. And just a funny story also with that, how God works, man. I know that, and I hope I don't get in trouble for name dropping this, but I know the House of Pearls had a boutique in Marshville. And it wasn't that long after, I don't remember what the timeline was exactly, but they were wanting to put a methadone clinic right beside the House of Pearls. And I was like, if anybody needs to see how the spiritual realm, how darkness works, how Satan works, there it is. You're right beside the House of Pearls. But I would see these stupid yellow Suboxone signs, man. And after having conversations with you and a lot of other men and hearing their hearts on how they struggled with methadone and Suboxone and everything like that, anytime I saw those signs, I would do this walk around the neighborhood, like a 3-mile walk. And there's a few of those signs that I grabbed up and carried threw them in the dumpster at home. Yeah. So the Union County landfill probably has a few of those signs buried down deep somewhere. But I don't see them that much anymore. They started nailing them up on telephone poles and stuff like that. But I see these signs and I'm like, I've never heard a single person. I don't know if you or anybody that you know has ever had a success with methadone.
Nope. It's not being sober minded. One bit.
I think honestly, it's a government trying to make money off of,
And they do, because I'm
addiction.
chemically dependent. Because I become as dependent on it, if not more, as I am on the heroin, the meth, the fentanyl, whatever the case may be, the pain pills. Because I can get it from the government. I'm not doing anything illegal, right? And it's just messing with my receptors. That's all it's doing, and it makes you feel good as well,
Yeah.
I'm going to be dependent on that.
Man.
I get addicted to my emotions, right? Because there's science backup to that where you can get addicted to rage or being happy or, just stuff like that because it's like extreme responses where it like releases dopamine or serotonin, whatever it is, to where you're like unconsciously unaware of the fact that you're getting addicted to being in self-pity and stuff like that. That blows my mind.
Wow.
But much less being actually chemically dependent on something I can just go grab out of the bottle and take or snort or shoot up.
Do you think that I've just pissed off a bunch of people who have been to clinics or are currently in clinics that do the MAT and they might feel like, hey, man, it works, man, back off?
From my experience and experience of many others, they're probably just wishing they could get off of it.
Really?
I'm not saying that's 100% facts, but majority from everybody I've ever talked to in recovery or trying to get sober, right, that's a stumbling block for them. And, well.
Wow.
Yep. Instead of like seeking a spiritual solution for a spiritual problem, they're seeking outside substances, right? But a lot of people are ignorant to the fact that it's a spiritual problem.
Yeah.
Right. I
shared this at the Bible study a few weeks ago at the bridge, and I likened it to this as well. When you're talking about the spiritual solution to a spiritual problem, taking a spiritual approach to a spiritually rooted problem, that if someone was to ask me, and that, of course I'm a believer, if someone was to ask me, okay, you don't want to see a counselor, you want to see a psychiatrist, therapist or whatever, but if my only option, if I have an option between a Christian counselor, Christian therapist who's going to apply biblical principle, biblical truth versus one who's not, it's almost the same as me taking my car to a mechanic and he never opens the hood. We're going to try to fix a mechanical problem in your car, but we're not even going to pop the hood. I'm like, man, you're wasting my time. Yeah, there's some psychological things and some tools you might be able to offer me, but exactly at root of what you're saying is, and even with the first episode podcast we did with Mr. Ryan there, they're at the root, man. There is a spiritual sin problem. The sin problem can manifest itself in very real cognitive issues, and there's a lot of different things that we can use to try to help with the brain and help with some of those deals. But yes, at the core of it is a spiritual problem. And I think that if you get to that point, if you deal with the spiritual, what's missing, start applying those biblical principles, then I think that God can do a work, the Holy Spirit can do a work in repairing the brain, those neural pathways, those pleasure centers, those, like for me with porn, it created a pathway. That was my, for pleasure, for pleasure seeking, whatever. I mean, it rewired my brain, and, God has been working on that, and God has been restoring that, and he's been rewiring it. And, so I guess, the point of that is that, again, I'm sure I probably ruffled some feathers with some people. Do I really care? But I want to be sensitive with this material and what we're doing and everything. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of clinics that would probably, have some negative comments to make about, all of that. But I think that the truth is the truth. And, I think you're a testimony to that.
Yeah, so anything I'm sharing about it is from my personal experience.
Right.
It doesn't determine the experience of others
Right.
that may have not been as deep into addiction as I was. They might not have been as spiritually dead as I was. I wasn't willing to take any classes to go along with the medications. Why am I going to do that when I can just get my bottle and go home and do it, right? And then that just transferred into selling them or trading them for the drug I really wanted, right? Because that's something that drug dealers would take at the time. So I get out of that 90-day inpatient treatment facility. Back up. I was in there, and there was a counselor there, and I was doing everything I could do. I was doing a lot of good service work, like working in the kitchen extra and stuff like that, mopping. We stripped and mopped all the floors, right? Anything I could do to be of service, I was helping doing that. And I was talking to one of the counselors right before I left, about a day before. He said, "You'll be back." I'm like, whoa, what do you mean I'm going to be back? No, I got what it takes now. All this self-knowledge. I know how my mind works. You've helped me, right? I'll be good. He said, "No, you'll be back. You're not ready. I don't see it in your eyes." That holds true of me today, as far as I can look at people. I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything, but I can see where they're kind of at in their stage of recovery, or like where they're at, or willingness, or you know what I mean.
Do you think a lot of people go only so far to where they feel like, to go all in and to go as far as you need to go, it's going to hurt and it's going to require a lot more work, but they get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm cured, and then they're not. Obviously,
I'm rehabbed.
Yeah.
Get a few showers, get to eating good, working out a little bit. Start to feel good physically. Ego starts getting back up there, right? They kind of forget what it felt like when they came back in. It's funny you should say that, man. Like in the big book, in the AA big book, it talks about it's a mental blank spot that we have. And this book was written in like 1938, 1939. It's like for reasons yet obscure, most alcoholics have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of a week or even a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. So with that being said, right, I'm without defense. I'm going to forget about that suffering and humiliation. I have a mental blank spot that goes on. Right? I'm good. My ego's built back up. I'm good. I might have overreacted a little bit. I forget about how desperate and how hopeless and how powerless I was when I walked in the doors.
Wow.
Right, because I've learned a little bit of something. People have boosted my ego a little bit, my confidence up. And that blows my mind that holds true, and that book was written then, and it's just as true then as it is today.
Wow.
It was a great way they described it. There's a lot of stuff throughout that book that helped me change my life. So I get out of there, and I get put on Suboxone. Within no time, I'm using my drug of choice, which was meth at the time, and pain pills and drinking. I fell in love with this girl, right? This guy that I was roofing houses with. It was her dad, and he found out that we were shooting up together and all kinds of stuff, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you move in with us?" Right? I don't know if he was like trying to like maybe bring me in so he could help get me away from that stuff, make sure his daughter's safe, whatever the case may be. I'm like, this dude's crazy, you know what I mean? He just found out I'm shooting up, stuff like that. But anyway, went through that. We were together for the longest time, using together all the time. And I took over my dad's house a bunch. We got drugs from over there, liquor from over there, stuff like that. And I'm still, like, not always there. I'm working a lot, like, throughout the week. Only thing I've really known how to do as a man is provide to a certain extent. Like, I can go to work and I can make money and I can hustle on the side and I can make and have enough. That's something I've always been able to do. But as far as being there emotionally and then physically, because I was so tired from work, I didn't want anything to do with it, when I got home. But she was comfortable over at my dad's house, going over there getting drugs and stuff. We were together for a long time. We ended up having a kid. Love that kid. So he was probably about 2 years old. A lot of fighting going on and stuff. I found out she's sleeping with my dad. Right. Crushed again, man. It's like I can't do anything right. Poor me. Self-pity all the way. I definitely had some insecurities flaring up again. I'm not good enough. Like, come back from when I was 16 and thought I was having a kid, except with, like, steroids. Because I've been moving to some harder drugs. As far as I'm doing meth all the time, it's a constant daily. I'm using meth, Xanaxes. I hadn't touched fentanyl, heroin really yet. That came pretty soon though, because that pain, the same drugs I was using just wasn't doing it for me anymore. Right, and I was always one of those guys that was like, I'm just gonna do some meth. I'm not gonna do heroin stuff. Who wants to be asleep over there?
I've got my standards.
Yeah, I got my standards. I'm gonna shoot dope like a gentleman, you know. But I'm not gonna shoot heroin because that stuff will kill you. Within no time, man. Guess what? Did a little bit of heroin, loved it because I already liked pain pills. Pain pills, the price of pain pills went up through the roof, and I couldn't afford them. But heroin was cheaper. And then somewhere along the lines, that just turned into fentanyl, and I didn't really know anything about it. This is how I found out I was doing fentanyl. I had a probation officer, and I went in, and I was honest with this guy. He was a good probation officer. He's like, what are you going to fail for today? I'm like, meth, fentanyl, Xanaxes. And I didn't say fentanyl. I said meth, heroin, right? Xanaxes, pain pills, whatever. I'm going to fail for it. Maybe some cocaine. I don't remember. He was like, okay. Well, let's go ahead and get you tested. He said, we gotta talk. If you don't clean this up by the next time, whatever these results are, I'm gonna put you in drug court. He was really lenient with me because I was brutally honest with him. Right? I'm like, I need some help, but Dark Cherry didn't work. You know, right? Like it was the place, it wasn't me. Still trying to blame other stuff. Went and took my drug test, and he's like, well, you didn't fail for heroin or opiates. I'm like, that's crazy because I know I just shot some heroin. And he was like, well, I'm going to have to test it for something else. And he put like a separate test strip in there. And he's like, well, you're positive for fentanyl. He said, I'm going to drug test you in like 3 days. And if this is still in your system, I'm taking you to jail because this will kill you. And I'm not playing around with that. He said, I've been lenient with meth and other stuff, but this will kill you.
Yeah.
So it's God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I just ran from him. I had told him, I'm like, all right, sounds good, but you're going to have to come get me. Because he already knew I was going to run. I'd ran multiple times from him, from all my other probation officers, like through the woods when they would come out to get me. Yeah, I wasn't going in easy.
What was your attitude during this whole season? Did you want to get better, or were you just trying to appease and trying to manage all of this? Manage people, manage jobs, relationships, this drug habit?
No, I wasn't worried about any jobs or people or anything other than not wanting to feel the emotions and the hate and the rage and all the stuff that I was feeling.
That was your purpose in that moment. Your MO was just to stay medicated.
Yeah, screw it. Right? I don't have any other agenda other than get my next drug, use it, rip off whoever I need to rip off to get what I need, use whoever I need to use to get what I need. And just keep going. Yeah.
You said a few things a couple times that just remind me of, that it's all these different things happened. I don't want this to sound like I'm counseling you, but because all this brings up a point that I want to make. It was from Thursday night's Bible study at the bridge, and we were talking about humility. Step 7, we humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings, right? And I looked up, I was like, why is it hard for people to ask for help? Why is it hard for people to ask for help? And, that come up with a list of different things, all sorts of different things. But the one thing that really nailed me, man, and, you're my brother, I love you, man, but I don't, you can take this for whatever it's worth, but I think that for a lot of people, it's a victim mentality. And it said one of the problems with people admitting they need help is if they admit they need help, they can no longer stand on that victim mentality. They have to admit that they have the power, essentially, but in this case, use that term loosely, but they have there is the accountability that they are accountable for their actions. They can no longer blame I'm the victim. The Marine Corps did this to me. This did this to me. And, like I say, I hope you receive that well. But I mean, I think in general, what you've been saying is, I think that there's, and it all what it comes down to is just this coming to this point, Lord, help me, and that's where that humility, humbly asking him to remove our shortcomings is just humbly ask, like, I need help. God, I need you, Lord, help me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. There's a reason I've been emphasizing blaming other people for all that, because that's how I felt. I was wrapped up in delusion and self-pity. Woe is me, making excuses for everything that I did, trying to justify or rationalize it in my mind. I mean, up until a couple months into recovery, right, when I started working the steps, and the switch kind of just flipped around, where I was able to accept responsibility for my own actions throughout my whole life, right, and just being able to accept whatever circumstances were going on. People were doing the best that they were capable of, and I have to accept that. You know, that's point blank. My parents were doing the best they were capable of. The Marine Corps was just doing their job. I was full flight from reality. You know, I was just wrapped up in the delusion so deep that my life seemed like it was the only normal one, and everybody else is just messing up, right? Police were wrong for arresting me. Had resentments towards the police for chasing after me. You know, it's like, how crazy does that sound later on? But all these things I use as rationalizations and justifications for my actions and my behaviors throughout my life, for my response to life. I blamed everybody else for that. Absolutely. Victim mentality all the way. And what's crazy is when my grandma stopped acknowledging that and stopped enabling that, and really like cut me off, other than bringing me, thank God for this woman, she brought me food multiple times. She's the only person that did not give up on me. She brought me food multiple times at different spots I'd be staying at, different drug houses, places like that. She would come on the side of the road. She'd bring me food, like a food care package, and drop it off with me. That kept me alive a few times, because I was homeless for about 3.5 years, going from here to the woods to under a bridge. I don't know if you know anything about Burke County, but the bridges are a little bit different than the ones in the cities. Like, we got woods around our bridges. You know, it's not like big open roads and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. But it took all that for my pride to get taken away from me, you know, where I have to have help. I'm not the answer. I can't do it on my own. Finally, it came to a point where I asked my buddy if he wanted some fentanyl. And this is crazy. He was like, "Nah, man, I quit." I'm like, you don't just quit. You know, I've never heard anybody say that they quit fentanyl before. They either die or get locked up. That's it. That's the cycle. You die, go to a place, or get locked up.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, how did you do it?" He was like, "Well, I went to this place called Daymark." I'm like, "What the heck's that?" And he was like, "Well, it's a detox. They gave me Suboxone for 7 days, or Subutex, to help me get off of it." I'm like, "Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that, because I can't keep on living the way I'm going." The fear of staying the same outweighed the fear of changing at that point. Right. And I called my grandma. I'm like, "Hey, think you come get me and take me to this place? I need some help. I want to get off the streets. I want to figure life out." Right. And she came and got me, took me up there, and she's like, you gotta go somewhere after this, blah, blah, blah. And what's crazy is I went to the bathroom at a gas station and got high with her on the way up there. And by the time we got up there, I threw everything else I had in my mouth, and I was nodded out, drooling on myself while she was trying to check me in to get me help. That's the stuff I put my grandma through. When I swore when I was younger, I'm not going to put my grandma through the same stuff my grandpa put her through.
Wow.
But I went way beyond that.
Yeah.
And so I get into Daymark. Withdrawals are terrible. Again, Subutex helped a little bit, but it didn't really. She worked hard. My grandma worked hard to get me to a year-long program. She was ready to pay for it, bought me 2 cartons of cigarettes, another set of clothes, or a bunch of clothes, like a little briefcase full of clothes, brought it up there to me, and she came to pick me up to take me to this place up in the mountains. Well, when we get to about the Hickory exit, I'm like, you might as well just pull the car over. Fear had started to creep in of really changing. Like, I felt a little bit better. I got a couple showers, got some food in me. I figured, you know, a reset's enough. And one of the lies I told myself was, well, I'm not going to be able to be there for my son, and I'm ready to just get a job and be there for my son. I haven't healed from any of the trauma or anything that I had. I just thought I was going to be able to just block it out and deal with it. So anyway, I argue with her. She lets me out of the car. Within a couple of days, I'm really high again. And I call her. Because I told her I got this when I got out of the car. She told me she wasn't mad at me. She was really disappointed.
No,
That's even worse.
that's worse.
I'd rather slap me in the face, which she's done. Yeah.
Man, thank God for Grandma.
Amen.
Amen.
She's been the solid rock, like the example of a godly woman that I've needed and I've had my whole life.
Amen.
She's been fervent in prayer for me. I mean, dedicated in prayer for me.
Do you think that the fear that hits you when you're on the way, and you threw a big old wrench in it, was it the fear of losing control?
Yeah.
Like up until your life is out of control, but your life is out of control, and that's what you can control.
Yep.
Like everything's jacked up. I'm out of control, but I have this illusion that I'm still in control of that. If I'm gonna go, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go my way. If I'm gonna live, I'm gonna live. If I want to destroy my life, that's my prerogative. I'm in control. But then once you're on your way to this 1 year deal, your life is about to get turned completely upside down, and it's gonna require complete loss of control and surrender. Like, golly, man, I was thinking about that. Just even the asking for help and the surrender, what that white chip means. I mean, is the white chip white for that reason?
Yeah.
Because it's
international color surrender.
Surrender. Wow, that's intriguing. So with sweet Grandma, man, is Grandma still around?
Yeah.
Hey, man, I need to meet Grandma sometime.
Yeah, you do.
But like, to bring the faith portion into all of this? I know you grew up kind of in a church, with church and a surrounding by church. Faith was a part of your life. And there's another interesting thing. You shared this in your speaker meeting. And man, I have never gotten over it, Ricky. Just how beautiful of an example of God's grace, of how God turned your life around and his love and grace for you, man. And just the example of his power to change a person or to redeem a person. I remember you telling a story, man, but you go and knock on people's doors to invite them to church. And if they opened the door, you would invite them to church. If they didn't, you'd kick the door in and rob them.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, that's an interesting example of just, and to where you are all this time, man, like all this time later, just how God has transformed your life and his grace, man. Like it just blows me away. But from the time you were a kid, Grandma's taking you to church, probably not really your thing. It was just, that's what Grandma brought you to church. When did your faith become real to you? When did, in this recovery process, at what point? And, can you look at the example of your grandma as being someone who kind of led you to the heart of God? Is that accurate, or like?
After fully surrendering, rededicating my life, right? It was February last year. I don't remember the exact day, but it was after my sobriety date. So it's somewhere around February 24th, I believe. I don't know, whatever Sunday it was last year. I rededicated my life at this church that we go to from the bridge. I was a client at the bridge. Well, I stood up, don't know anybody in there, wearing like some basketball shorts, whatever, right? My heart was in the right place. I couldn't keep on living. God had granted me so many opportunities through all my overdoses and stuff like that, to where I couldn't deny the power of God, right? It was awesome. I want to tell you this story. So I'm up there, and the members of the church, some of the elders of the church, some of the older people, come up and they'll lay hands and they'll pray with you. And so I'm like surrounded with people, and I feel these big old hands on my back. There's one right across the center of my back. It felt like it stretched all the way across my back. Right? But when we're praying and stuff, I just felt like encompassed in love, right? Like there were just hands all over me. And it's something I hadn't ever experienced. All right, because I didn't feel worthy of love.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Years ago, you messed up, with this girl. Youth pastor turns his back on you. Fast forward all these years, here are this people truly representing the kingdom of God. And really surrounding you with love, man.
Don't even know me.
Don't even know you. How powerful that is, man. I think so many people have been kneecapped so many people that have been in your position that have come off the street, come into a church, maybe they're high, broken, a mess, but people don't know how to deal with that, man. People don't know how to, maybe they're not living right themselves, so they don't know how to deal with somebody else that's not living right. They've got sin in their own life or whatever it may be, man. But just, dude, it breaks my heart to hear so many stories like that where somebody, gets turned out by the church or gets ignored or gets, when at the time that they needed somebody the most, man. And so I just think that, man, what a powerful testimony to have that love, So who was Gorilla Hands? Did you ever figure that out?
Yeah, this woman that's about 4'6", 4'8". This tiny little woman
was the one who had like
it felt
giant hand.
because when I turned around, her hand was still there, and she like lifted off, and her hand wasn't big at all, but that's what it felt like.
It felt like this big giant.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I love this woman, and I gave her a big old hug, and every time I see her, still I'll go up and go out of my way to go say hey and thank you and hug her. It blew my mind. I thought it was some like big grown man, and it was just this little woman, and it's just that love.
How do you think that God's grace turned things for you? Where obviously Suboxone and this dark cherry, black cherry place, is it dark cherry?
Dark cherry, yeah.
Dark cherry. All of these attempts, attempts on your own power or psych ward, all these different places. Like what was it for you? What the faith part? What was different to as far as lasting recovery, real recovery, true recovery?
Through the steps of AA, working with the sponsor, acquiring that kind of faith, right? Stepping from the bridge of reason to desired shores of faith, and that's accomplished through working the steps with the sponsor. So I learned, right, surrendering in step one, I am completely powerless on my own power. I have no power in me to get over this addiction. I've tried so many different ways, so many different times on my own or with other humans helping me. I'm beyond human aid. It's not just a human problem, it's a spiritual problem. I learned that I had a spiritual malady, and once that was overcome, my mental and my physical would straighten out. Okay, so I had to like accept that. I fully conceded to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic, I have a disease, and I don't have the power to fix it, nor does any counselor or anybody out there, right? Then moving on, I need that power. I mean, it's got to be bigger than me, and I don't want to. For me, I didn't want to say that it's a group of drunks or just a room full of people. I didn't want to say that they're power greater than me, right? Because I believe in God. I just didn't really much to do with them, to be honest with you. And so I was talking about needing I need the power. I need a power outside of myself for a solution. I need a spiritual solution for my spiritual problem. Step 2 is all about that. I still don't know at this point that I need God's grace to enter into me, right? And I need to receive that for it to expel the obsession that I have to drink or use. Still didn't understand that until after it happened. So running my life on self-will, I got all these resentments, fears, pride, ego, right? Jealousy, any of my defects, really, that's keeping me away from God. Too much of me in between me and God. That's been the biggest thing in between me and God. A lot of self. I didn't know any of that. I wasn't aware of it. But the steps and a good sponsor brought that to the light and to my attention. And it's also in one of the literature that says that the grace of God will enter into you and expel the obsession to drink or use. That seemed a little far-fetched to me, but when it happened, that's a miracle. Because I could not stop using no matter what was going on in my life. I had to use. So for that to happen and to experience that miracle through working with another man, it's a form of discipleship. It really is. And now I get to experience that and do that with others. And just keep carrying the message of hope and recovery. It's probably the biggest blessing that I have.
That's awesome. So I guess we can probably wrap up at this point. A couple of things. one, where do you see God restoring things and God bringing you to now to where, you know, that you never thought that you would ever be, maybe?
So when I was in treatment last year for 30 days, I didn't think I would, in another 30 days, I would be working at a treatment center, right? So he provided that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I started working at a treatment center, and now where I'm at now, I'm a site director at that treatment center. And it's like, never was that in one of my career paths or choices. But God, being able to let God work in and through me is unlike anything else that I've experienced in my life. All those chains of addiction and bondages, the bondage itself, it's been broken. And I know what true freedom is, and to be able to walk in recovery and be an example for others. And that's, yep. Even if I still live at a treatment center and work there, it's where God wants me right now, where other doors would have opened, you know. And he keeps providing me with outside side work, just enough to just keep me where I'm at, you know, as far as financially and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want for anything.
You inspire me, brother. I could just see, you know, the love of God just beaming from you, man. I could see Him working in you. I could just see just the passion and the love that you have for Him, and it's inspiring, man, to see how you show that and how you live that out to people, and especially clients and people there at the bridge too. It's very inspiring. But I want to end on this one because I'm sure there's a lot of people like, where did the Ticklefoot name come from?
Can I go through this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna move this microphone back out that I hit with my mannerisms that I have. Probably leftover residuals from all my meth use. They tell me it'll straighten out. We'll see. So Beth and Cam, well, Cam's been doing Bible studies at the bridge for a while, and he came in. It was like the first or the second week that I was there on a Thursday, and he'll open up. He's like, "Hey, I'm Cam. I'm Beth's husband. Y'all pretty much my family now. By the way, I expect gifts at Christmas for my family." Stuff like that, just to break the ice, you know. And it's pretty cool. He said, "So tonight's gonna be a little bit weird," and then he kind of just went on into talking about something else. But he said that. And then towards the end, or not towards the end, but a little bit more into his opening little spiel that he does, he said, "So tonight, got some wash tubs. I want to wash your feet." Right? And I'm like, "Well, I've done this in Bible school, or not Bible school. It's like, Sunday school on Sunday morning when I was a kid. But I learned a little bit about being humble and humility as far as doing that for your brother, right? That Jesus did that for the disciples." And he explained all this, and man, you could really feel the Spirit moving in that room tonight. We had this Asian guy that was there as a client with me. He was all for it. He's like, yeah, you can wash my feet. And then the wash tubs came out, and he said, "Oh, you're being for real?" He said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Nah, man, you ain't washing my feet." Nope. Not only had I been homeless, right, my feet were a mess from walking barefooted and everything like that. I'm ticklish. And I said, "Nah, man. Nah, my feet are extremely ticklish. You ain't touching my feet." But the Spirit kind of led me to do otherwise. And then I'm like, "Nah, you ain't getting away with that. I'm going to wash your feet too." Right? And it was awesome. Then I got to hear Miss Beth sing that night. "Clean" by Natalie Grant. And it was awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.
And just to see the way you look at her with love and tearing up, it was just awesome. I'm like, that's what a healthy relationship looks like.
I always know when God's going to do something really big, because I was preparing the lesson, and I had something completely else on my mind, man. And God directed me, as I was doing some research, and God directed me to that passage. And when I read through that passage, man, like I broke out. Like I just wept. And I was like, "All right, Lord." And so... But the lives that were touched, man, like I know there was a couple people much later on, one who's still on staff there, you know, he was like, "Man, I didn't want to let you do it, man." I was like, "Heck no." And, but he humbled himself, you know, he practiced humility. He humbled himself. He, you know, gave me that opportunity to do that for him. And he said that set him back on a trajectory back towards God. that he had been away from God, and that put him back on a path back to God. One of the ones that just blessed me the most, man, there was this older black guy, and I think he had been homeless as well for a while. And man, he was just like, he's like, man, my feet are pretty nasty. My feet, calluses, scars, or whatever, And I mean, not to be super spiritual, man, but this is where my heart was in the moment, man. I just looked at him. I was like, man, I'm not ashamed of your feet. I'm not ashamed of your feet, man. And I think that in itself could have just been, just within a few words could have been a sermon. I'm not ashamed of your feet, So, but yeah, we were all in there hooting, hollering, and crying, and praising, and going, and and then people wanted to wash my feet, man, and people wanted to wash Beth's feet. It was just, and half the people in there probably had no idea what we were doing, man. Biblically, had no idea what we were doing. But you just see the Spirit of God moving in that simple act of humility and that simple act of, what Jesus did, and like the lowly act of a servant that Jesus modeled, and like Jesus himself, God's Son, like wow, and but people had, like I say, half the people might not have even known what we were doing, but the Holy Spirit was moving in such a way, it was just stirring people up, and and again, people wanted to wash my feet and her feet. Our feet were pretty clean the end of the night, I think. But yeah, that was probably the most awesome move of God I've ever seen. And yeah, so brother, I think we'll end it there. Appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your testimony. And I'm sure there's going to be much more as this continues on. Your story's not over. And, I'll be very intrigued. Maybe there'll be a part 2 at some point, but I love you, man.
I love you too, brother. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.